There are people in California whose whole job is to sit across a desk from someone and explain what a deportation notice actually means. This week, the state Senate spent an afternoon arguing about whether those people get to keep their home address off a public record.
AB 2624 will expand California's Safe at Home program to include immigrant service providers, their employees, and volunteers. This opportunity. Since its inception nearly 30 years ago, the Safe at Home program has protected thousands of victims of stalking and domestic violence victims, along with reproductive health care workers.
That's State Senator Lena Gonzalez on the floor Tuesday. Plus, 2 vetoes in a single day in North Carolina, and a legislature that can't answer them until after the election. From Amendment, this is the 10th.
Tick, 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 tock, lights on, this is our sound. 10 voices rising, shaking the ground. From the street to the steps where the deals go down. Welcome to the 10th now. The 10th, hey! Turn it up right now. The 10th, yeah! We don't back down. Truth in the beat, fire in the sound. This is the 10th.
This is your briefing for Sunday, August 23rd. What state legislatures and Congress actually did this week? And this week, that list is short because most of them have gone home. Almost every state house in the country is out. The law that actually moved this week moved in 2 places, a governor's desk in Raleigh and a Senate floor in Sacramento that has until August 31st before the session ends. So we're going to spend real time on both. 2 vetoes in North Carolina on Monday, and a stack of bills clearing the California Senate on Tuesday and Wednesday, including the one you just heard argued. Let's start in Raleigh. Monday, August 17th, Governor Josh Stein vetoed 2 bills on the same day. Both had already cleared the General Assembly. Both are now frozen.
Frozen how?
Because the legislature isn't in the building. North Carolina's next voting session begins November 16th. That's 13 days after the November 3rd election. Okay, what are the 2 bills? The first is House Bill 377, and it's called the 2026 Court Changes Act. It would let the Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court suspend a trial judge without pay while a misconduct investigation is going on. And it would let the Supreme Court censure, reprimand, suspend, or remove a judge without waiting for a recommendation from the state's Judicial Standards Commission.
So the commission stops being the gatekeeper.
That's the change. The lead sponsor is Representative Sarah Stevens, a Republican. The conference report cleared the Senate 26-11 on July 29th, and the House 61-45 on August 5th.
And Stein stated reason? He said it would have a chilling effect on judicial independence, and he made a specific point about who does the removing. Nearly all of North Carolina's trial judges are elected, so taking one out of office should first be a decision for the voters. He also noted that no other Chief Justice in the country holds that suspension power. And the second bill?
House Bill 958, Election Law Changes. 4 things in it worth knowing. It cuts early voting in primaries from 17 days to 10. It lets a ballot be challenged for up to 3 days after Election Day. It requires post-election audits, and it requires the DMV to share Social Security numbers with the State Board of Elections. Who carried it? 8 Republican sponsors, including Representative Hugh Blackwell. The Senate passed it 28-13 on July 28th. The House concurred 62-46 on August 4th. Stein vetoed it at an event at the Executive Mansion and said leaders should respect your vote, not restrict it.
So what happens now, because a veto in North Carolina isn't the end of the road?
It isn't. House Speaker Destin Hall has said Republicans will try to override both. And here's where the arithmetic matters. An override in North Carolina takes 3/5 of the members present and voting in each chamber. On the days these bills actually passed, the House margins were 61-45 and 62-46. Both of those are just under 3/5 of the members who voted that day. Just under. By a couple of votes. And override math isn't fixed. It depends on who's in the chamber on the day of the vote, which is why that November 16th date is the number to hold on to. An elections bill vetoed in August can't be overridden until after the election it would have governed.
We're not going to tell you how that vote goes.
Nobody knows, including the people who have to take it.
Now to California, and to the bill from the top of the show. We want to slow down on this one.
Start with the thing that already exists, because that surprised me.
California has run an address confidentiality program called Safe at Home for nearly 30 years. Here's how it works. The state gives you a substitute address. The Secretary of State becomes your middleman. Your mail and your legal documents go to the state, and the state forwards them to you. Your actual home, your workplace, and your kid's school never enter the public record.
And who has it covered until now?
People who've survived stalking, people who've survived domestic violence, and reproductive health care workers. That is the entire list.
So this bill adds a name to the list.
Assembly Bill 2624 adds one category: immigration support services providers, legal aid staff, humanitarian relief workers, case managers, advocates, and the volunteers who sit next to them. Applications open April 1st, 2027. Once you are in, the protection runs for 4 years. And if someone publishes a participant's home address after being told in writing to stop, that can carry a penalty of up to $10,000 for each violation.
What did the sponsors say the problem actually was?
Senator Lena Gonzalez, a Democrat, presented it on behalf of Assemblymember Mia Bonta. That was the clip you heard at the top. Doxing of staff and volunteers at legal aid organizations, coordinated death threats, and vigilante activity aimed at organizations by name and by address. In that same debate, another senator described workers being followed on their lunch breaks and read from the director of a Los Angeles immigrant rights organization describing hate calls, threats against the organization, and people being stalked.
This one was not unanimous, though.
It was not, and we're going to play you the other side because the objection was a real argument and not a slogan. Here's Senator Tony Strickland, a Republican, rising against it on the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill. This bill actually works. There's a lot of provisions in here that actually go against the freedom of speech and our First Amendment rights, and also accountability on that speech. And part of it is also the investigative reporting end.
So that's a press freedom objection. The worry is that a law about hiding addresses becomes a law about what reporters can publish.
That's the concern as he stated it. And there was an answer on the floor from the senator who chaired the committee that heard the bill. 2 parts to it. First, safe-at-home eligibility requires proof that a person is actually experiencing threats or harassment. You don't just sign up. Second, the program doesn't prohibit general discussion, advocacy, or criticism of a policy, an organization, or a person, and it doesn't prohibit publishing information for lawful and journalistic purposes.
And the vote.
The Senate passed it 30-10 on Tuesday, August 18th. The Assembly agreed to the Senate's changes 59-19 on Wednesday, August 19th. We pulled that 30-10 off the chamber's own roll call, name by name, not off a tracker.
Okay, next one. Same building. And I want to push back on this before you even explain it. Because when you told me about it, my first reaction was, wait, that's already illegal.
That was my first reaction too. And the answer is that it was already illegal in one direction.
Meaning?
California law already stopped somebody from stepping off a utility company's payroll and onto the Public Utilities Commission within 2 years. Nothing stopped the trip the other way. Commissioner today, utility employee next month. How often does that actually happen? Here's the senator who presented the bill, Jerry McNerney, a Democrat, with the number.
There is a clear conflict of interest between the CPUC and California's private utility companies, also known as IOUs, with nearly half of the former commissioners having been hired by those same IOUs.
Nearly half.
Of the people who used to run that commission, they went to work for the companies it regulates. So Assembly Bill 2618 adds one sentence to the Public Utilities Code, and it's short enough to read out loud. A commissioner, for a period of 2 years after the end of the commissioner's term of office, shall not be employed by an entity subject to regulation by the commission.
Any exceptions?
None in the text. The Senate passed it 38-0 on Wednesday by unanimous roll call. The Assembly had passed it 68-0 back in May. The author is Assemblymember Damon Connolly.
One more from that same afternoon.
Assembly Bill 1696, and this one is a good example of a law that reads like paperwork and isn't.
Go.
California's Emergency Services and Care Law said that care has to be delivered by a physician or by somebody working under a physician's supervision. 1696 writes an exception into that. A licensed nurse-midwife can now practice without physician supervision in 3 specific places: labor and delivery, obstetric triage, and dedicated emergency obstetric evaluation units.
Within what they're already licensed to do.
Within exactly what they're already licensed to do. Nothing about their training changed this week. Here's Senator Anna Caballero presenting it.
The bill ensures that pregnant patients can receive timely care from highly trained nurse-midwives without outdated codes, creating unnecessary barriers, confusion, or delays.
Outdated codes. That's the whole thing, isn't it?
That's the whole thing. And the vote was 38-0 in the Senate on Wednesday and 74-1 in the Assembly in May. The author is Assemblymember Catherine Stefani.
Put somebody inside that number, though. 38-0 doesn't land on its own.
So picture a person walking into obstetric triage at 2 in the morning. There is a nurse midwife standing right there. The question was never whether that nurse midwife is qualified to look at her. The question was whether the statute allowed that to be the person who does. That's what a unanimous vote fixed.
One from Washington.
And it's a short one, because Congress is in recess and there's nothing on the floor to report. The only federal legislative activity inside our window was members dropping bills into the hopper.
Anything worth naming?
One. On Thursday, August 20th, Representative Hillary Scholten, a Democrat, introduced House Resolution 10,134, the Local Health Care Protection Act. It would carve out an eligibility exception in the federal drug discount program for providers who got hit by cuts to Medicaid.
And we should be honest about what that is.
We should. No hearing, no co-sponsor vote, no floor time. Introduction is the first word of a very long sentence, and most sentences that start never finish. The chamber comes back in September.
A few numbers to land with from this week.
Nearly 30 years. That's how long California's Safe at Home program had been running before this week added a category to it.
2 years. That's the new cooling off period for a departing utilities commissioner, and now it runs in both directions instead of one.
3 days. That's how long after Election Day a ballot could have been challenged under the North Carolina elections bill.
And April 1st, 2027. That's the first day anybody can actually file an application under the California Address program.
One note on where the public is pointing this week, because it isn't at any of this.
ResistBot's top campaigns were public lands and public health. Codifying the roadless rule pulled 1,436 signatures in 24 hours. The wildfire campaign, 1093. Blocking government access to private health data, 1073. All three are aimed at Washington, which is out of town.
So where does that leave us?
Go back to the desk we opened on. Somebody sits down across from a person holding a deportation notice and starts explaining what it means. That's the job. And the reason this week's argument happened at all is that doing that job has been putting their home address in front of people who look it up.
And the fix is almost boring, which is the part I keep thinking about. There's no new agency, there's no new power. California took a 30-year-old program built for stalking survivors and wrote one more category into it.
The first application can be filed on April 1st, 2027. That's the date to remember.
For the full text, the status, and a plain English breakdown of any bill we mentioned today, head to amendment.app.
And if this is useful to you, follow the 10th wherever you're listening and leave us a review. It genuinely helps people find the show.
Thanks for listening to the 10th. We'll see you next Sunday.
If they lock the gate, we move as one. If they change the rules, we don't run. No more borrowed truth, no more fake grace. We raise our flags in a different place. Fuera, fuera, take that crown away. Fuera, fuera, we won't play your game. We are the streets, we are the names. Fuera, fuera, burn the throne today.